And we cook. Time to get that freshly trimmed brisket onto the smoker. I'm just going to kind of talk through this whole cook with you guys, give you guys my thoughts and how I like to approach this. We're going to start with the hot sauce binder. If this is not something you've done before, I'd highly recommend it. Hot sauce adds a great little layer of flavor in there, and today I'm using truff. Now go ahead and use your favorite. I like the truff one. It has a really cool flavor to it, and this is their hotter version. Don't be afraid of going too spicy on the outside of this, because remember, this is a big honking piece of meat. A lot of flavor can get in there. It can handle a lot of rub and a lot of seasoning and a lot of binder on there. So really work it in. And then we're going to get a layer of seasoning on there. We're using Lane's Scorpion Rub. This is a mixture of their brisket rub and a few other things. It's meant specifically for steaks, and so it's great with beef. And I'm doing this seasoning the night before, about 6 hours before. I'm actually going to put this on the smoker. I'm just going to wrap it up and put it back in the fridge once I'm done seasoning. This is a great thing to do if you are getting up super early in the morning. You don't want to trim and season your brisket at like 3 a.m. Do it the night before, let it hang out in the fridge. Getting the Kamado going, we're going to be using that. This is a direct heat from the bottom, so we're going to use deflector plates. I like to cover those in tinfoil, but leave the bottom open. That way they can stay nice and clean. And then we're going to use a water pan. This is going to have a nice gentle heat, so we can really push this as a long cook. Getting those grates in there over that. And I actually refilled the water about 10 hours into the cook just to keep it going. Getting the brisket on there. And like I said, I'm doing an overnight cook on this one. So it's going to go for about 10-12 hours. Got that meter probe in. And the meter is super cool because you can actually set alerts for it. So I have a high temperature alert, a low temperature alert. So I can go to bed and be fully comfortable that this thing is going to be good. We're about 10-12 hours later, 170 degrees internal, and we're going to do a butcher paper wrap. I like to do a little bit of beef tallow on the bottom, get the brisket in there, and a little more beef tallow on top. This really just allows that, this tallow has already been rendered, so it allows it to kind of soak into the meat, and I've always had really good results using beef tallow during my wrap. Now, my wrap method, I like to use what's called the boat method. So we're going to do a layer of butcher paper. That allows it to keep some of the moisture in, but it does allow it to breathe a little bit. Underneath the butcher paper, I do what's called the boat method. So I do a tinfoil boat on the bottom, and what that does, it keeps moisture from leaking out the bottom, but if there's too much in there, it can still evaporate out the top. Again, getting that meter probe back in there to monitor it and back into the smoker. Now, one thing about a Kamado style smoker is mine particularly, the left side is hotter than the right side. So I always point the point towards that hotter side because it's thicker, it takes longer to cook, and the center flat goes on the slightly cooler side of the grill. Now, I will say, I think I overcooked this a little bit. It's a little bit too tender. You can kind of see where it tore right there, but let's get a look at that cross shot real quick. Super nice and juicy. This is absolutely what I want to see. Now, this point, or this flat here, did definitely overcook a little bit. It's fallen apart. It's a little bit too tender. You're going to see here with this pull method here. It's not so tender that it's going to fall apart in the bend test, but it's just going to pull right apart there. And I will say there are worse things in this world than a too tender brisket. You just want to make sure you baby it. I had that water pan in there, and I had that tallow in there, so it's nice and juicy, and that's exactly what you want to see. All right, cheers, y'all.